welcome back. In this chapter, we are now exploring the absolute chaos of middle school romance and a Valentine's Day that just goes completely wrong. It's one of those painfully funny stories about a first romantic experience that, let's be honest, probably feels a little too familiar to some of us. The whole story starts with some unexpected advice from Trevor's mom. He's just a kid and doesn't even understand basic ideas about relationships, yet she suddenly starts giving him very advanced, almost adult level guidance. It catches him completely off guard and sets the tone for the rest of the situation. And that brings us to our first section, the professor of love. That's really who his mom was in this moment. She was so focused on shaping the man he would become one day that she sometimes forgot to teach him how to simply be a kid in the present. And just look at what she was teaching him. These were serious, adult ideas about relationships, financial dynamics, dealing with in-laws, emotional maturity. But for a young kid, it was all just theory. He didn't have the context to understand any of it, so it mostly went over his head. And that's really the heart of the problem. There's a huge gap in his education. He's being taught advanced ideas about future adult relationships, but he has no basic, practical understanding of how to navigate everyday interactions right now. Things like how to talk to a girl his own age are still completely foreign to him. Everything comes to a boiling point when Trevor is 12. He transfers to a new school, H.A. Jack Primary School, and immediately runs into a social world he is completely unprepared for. It's a turning point where all those gaps in his education suddenly become impossible to ignore. Valentine's Day arrives, and while Trevor understands the idea of Cupid and romance in theory, the reality feels overwhelming. The idea of simply choosing someone and declaring your love seems intense and unfamiliar. Instead of a fun celebration, it feels more like a high-stakes social challenge he isn't prepared for. Almost immediately, peer pressure takes over. The other kids, especially the white girls, decide for him that he should ask Malene. Their reasoning is simple and blunt. He is the only mixed-race boy, and she is the only colored girl. In their minds, it isn't even a real choice. It's just the obvious match they expect him to make. But here's the thing, you couldn't just walk up to a girl and ask her out. There was a system, a surprisingly formal and almost bureaucratic process for middle school Valentine's Day. It turned something simple into a structured social procedure that Trevor had to figure out. Just look at the system. It was a multi-step negotiation handled entirely by other people. Your friends talk to her friends check with her, and then they report back. It didn't feel like a childhood crush. It felt more like a corporate deal being negotiated. After all the back and forth between friend groups, Trevor finally gets the green light. He knows Malene is going to say yes, it's already basically decided. But like a politician who knows the vote is secured, he still has to make the move and say it himself. And when the moment comes, the nerves hit him hard. So he chooses the most romantic setting a 12-year-old can think of, under the golden arches of a McDonald's. He takes a deep breath, gathers all his courage, and finally asks her the question. And of course, she says yes. But right there at McDonald's, something immediately shifts, and the situation suddenly feels much more real and serious than Trevor expected. He gets his first kiss. It's just a quick peck, but to him it feels like fireworks. Something shifts inside him, like a switch has been flipped. He doesn't fully understand the feeling, but he knows he loves it. From that moment on, he is all in. Now, he's fully invested. Over the next week, Trevor prepares everything carefully. He saves his pocket money and buys the classic Valentine's gifts, flowers, and a teddy bear. He even tries writing poetry, only to discover that not many words rhyme with Malene, which makes the whole process even harder. Finally, the big day arrives. Trevor walks into school with his gifts, feeling completely confident. In his mind, he isn't just excited, he feels like the happiest boy in the world, ready for his big Valentine's Day moment. He waits in the hallway as other students exchange chocolates and teddy bears around him. The whole school feels filled with Valentine's Day excitement. Then, at last, he sees Hermeline walking toward him. Before he can even say, "Happy Valentine's Day," she stops him. There's no anger or cruelty in her voice, just a simple, blunt statement. "Lorenzo asked me to be his Valentine. I'm his girlfriend now and not yours. He's been replaced." He's in total shock and doesn't know how to respond. On instinct, he hands over the card, flowers, and teddy bear. She thanks him, takes the gifts, and then simply walks away. Just like that, she's gone. He feels completely crushed, like he's been hit all at once by something he didn't see coming. But even in that moment of shock and pain, another part of him switches on. Almost immediately, he starts analyzing what just happened, trying to make sense of it. And surprisingly quickly, he figures it out. And this is the cold, hard math he runs in his head. He compares himself to the competition Lorenzo. On every metric that matters in middle school, Lorenzo wins easily. He's popular, good-looking, the classic bad boy. In comparison, Trevor feels like he never really stood a chance. And here's the kicker. His devastation is mixed with a strange kind of logical acceptance. He can't even be fully angry at her because when he looks at the situation objectively, he realizes he probably would have made the same choice too. And the story ends with a quiet, powerful image. While the other kids run around celebrating Valentine's Day, Trevor goes back to an empty classroom. He sits down alone and waits for the bell to ring, quietly processing his first harsh lesson about love and relationships. In the end, this Valentine's Day experience becomes more than just a childhood embarrassment. It's Trevor's first real lesson in how social rules, status, and comparison shape relationships. It shows how quickly emotion can turn into analysis and how even young kids learn to measure themselves against others. As we move into the next chapter, we'll see how these same ideas of identity and belonging continue to play out in a completely different setting, pushing Trevor to navigate even more complex social boundaries.
If you'd like more personalized feedback, writing support, and discussion sessions, they're available with me or with our selected tutors. All the details are here.